Have you ever been in a relationship with somebody, either platonic or romantic, and you knew that the person was toxic or that the relationship was toxic? It could have even been you, it could have been both of you. And you still struggled to end the relationship, or you're still struggling to end the relationship. I noticed that this happens a lot. Happened to me a couple, two, three times, and I've seen it happen to other people. And the other day, I was on Instagram and I saw this account, Sit with Sharon, at Instagram. And she has a lot of good stuff on there. And one of the things that she posted was the reason why some people struggle to end a relationship for good. So she gave us three possible reasons. I'm going to read them to you and discuss them. And hopefully, when this video is over, you can tell me if you have experienced these three reasons, or maybe you might have other ones to add to this list. But first, let me do the introduction. Hey guys, it's me, it's Queen Aset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to somebody else who may like it too. Also, please leave us a positive comment in the comment section. And stick around to the end because I have two positive comments to read to you and talk about. Okay, also, if you would like to get a reading done, please email me or hit me up on social media. All of my information is underneath this video. If you would like to become a patron, any of those good things, if you'd like to get some Ask an Aquarius merchandise, all of that is underneath this video, okay? So here's reason number one. The first reason how come a lot of people have a hard time ending an awful relationship is because you are hopeful that things will change. For me, this is the one that got me every time. I was always hopeful that things would change. I was hopeful that the person would stop doing whatever they were doing, or I would do better. Whatever the case was, I was always hopeful because I'm Aquarius and we're idealistic. So in the case of my entanglement, I'm trying to think of an entanglement. Like, for example, the Taurus. The Taurus was a really good person. She is a good person, but she got some really major issues that she refuses to address. And I was hoping and believing that she would, because she would always tell me that she would. So either the person is telling you that they're going to do it, or you're just hoping that they're going to do it. Some people will straight up lie to you. Some people will gaslight you. And some people will try, like my ex-husband. He would try, and then 4 days later, he'd be back into a bad behavior pattern. The Taurus had the same issue. She would say, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And she would talk a great game, and a week later, she had done nothing. So a lot of times, that hope is just misplaced. Now, she said this leads to you stay for the potential of what could be. So the relationship is awful, or is not that great, or whatever the problem is something that's irreconcilable. But instead of you saying, you know what, this is it, I'm out, you keep on saying, well, this could be great. When I was in that entanglement with the Cancer, I kept saying, if he would stop doing X and I would stop doing X, we could make it, because we have all these good things. You know, there's good things here. In most relationships, there's at least one good thing. So it's like, it's all these good things here. So if he would stop, you know, being abusive, with nothing else to call it, if he would stop being abusive, and if I would stop trying to be manipulative and make him do what I want him to do, maybe this relationship can be more than it is right now. So I kept hanging in there for those 2 years for the potential. And of course, the potential never went anywhere, because I never changed and neither did he. He didn't even plan to change. At least I knew it was important and was moving towards it. He never changed. He's still exactly the same way. Now, she said this will end with, you are denying the reality that things will not change. So you are in the relationship, you're hopeful that it will change, you stay in the relationship for the potential, 20 years later, it's still not any better, and you are now in denial. At this point, you're now in denial. So the whole thing is just screwed up, and you're still in a relationship that is not changing and is not getting any better. So the second reason she said here is you believe it is better to stay than to be single. I never thought this. I know a lot of single people. My mother was single for most of my life. And a lot of people around me, aunts, uncles, different people were single and successful and happy. So I never fell into this trap. But I do talk to a lot of clients and they tell me it's better to stay because they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be single. They're afraid of being alone in some cases. Like, what if something happens? What if somebody breaks in? Who's going to help me when I need help? Those kind of practical questions will keep a lot of men and women in a relationship. And also, what about my kids? I don't want to raise my kids by myself. I've heard this so many times from men and women. So what ends up happening, she says, in the next tier is that you develop a fear of being alone and starting over. How many times have you talked to a friend or yourself that's in a bad relationship and that's what they tell you, that they don't want to be alone? I don't want to start over. Where am I going to meet somebody? All that unknown becomes a fear and they stay in the relationship. And the outcome, she says, if you do break up, you constantly get back together, revolving door. I did a lot of revolving doors, and you keep getting back together to avoid the grief that you feel when your fear triggers when you're by yourself. So this type of person, they'll keep breaking up and getting back together over and over again because this fear is so strong of being alone. And the last one is, she said, you trauma bond with incompatible partners. When two people trauma bond, it's usually that they both have the same wound or they both have a wound. So let's say you and I were both abused as children. We meet each other and we bond over our trauma. Or you are abusing me and we bond because basically me as the person that's being abused, something's already going on up here, because if you're allowing somebody to abuse you, there's something going on up here. Something psychologically is going on. Either you're not seeing your worth or something's wrong. And then the other person, the abuser, there's something wrong, there's much wrong with them too. So sometimes these two people trauma bond. So it's either you're both abused or it's the abuser-abusee bond going on. And these bonds can be very detrimental and they can be difficult to break. So according to this, two people have a trauma bond, and what it leads to is the high of breaking up and making up. Have you ever heard somebody say that before, that they break up to make up? And people talk about it in songs, and I've heard people talk about it all the time. And there's a high to it. When you break up with somebody and get back together, there's a high to it. But the high is temporary. So when you pay attention to this, it says here that this high feels like intimacy. It feels like a positive feeling. But if you have to keep breaking up and making up to get that feeling, something is going on in this relationship that's not functional. And she said that this will usually cause one or both people to stay because it's familiar and they are afraid that that's all they've ever known. So I've only known this person for 5 years. I haven't accomplished any other relationships with anybody else outside of this one. I may have some family or maybe some friends, but for the most part, this trauma bond has been my most important relationship. So now this person who is dysfunctional, this relationship I'm in is dysfunctional, but this person is the only person I'm bonded with. So because they're the only person I'm bonded with, I'm reluctant to leave even when I know the relationship is unhealthy. So let us know in the comment section if any of these have been true for you, or if you have other ones that we could add to this list. Because this list is, a lot of times people that stay in bad relationships, That's the list that they give me. And I'm always wondering, like, why are you staying there? And then I think about it and I'm like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's usually one of those three things. But the first one, the one about being hopeful that they'll change, that is so Aquarius. So today we have two positive comments. The first one comes from Char T. Char T said, I'm definitely rebellious, but I learned to pick my battles. Yes, Aquarius, that's smart. Also, my name is Charlotte, which means free man. So put that all together. I don't play very much. Yeah, that part about picking your battles is the most important part, because when I was young, I fought every battle and it was exhausting. And I didn't win every battle, but I fought everyone and it was exhausting and it was pointless at the end of the day. Lily, what's up? Lily said, I can definitely be rebellious at times. Yeah, that's an Aquarius trait. Many of us have that one. And like I said, pick your battles. Sometimes it's time to rebel. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes injustice is going on and you have to raise up. And other times it's not that deep. And you can just be like, okay, I'm just going to leave this alone. Okay? All right, guys, you come back soon because I got a lot more to say. See you later.